Hey, welcome back to another video. This video is going to be on creating a URL shortener with Laravel, Blade, and PHP 8. We're going to go start to finish from the typical Laravel boilerplate that comes prepackaged with Laravel Breeze, and we're going to go to a fully functional URL shortener that you could deploy and use. But before we do that, I just want to mention that this video is sponsored by Cloudways, your one-stop shop for Laravel and WordPress VPS hosting. If you're looking for a new managed host, they're a great option. They've never let me down. I've been a customer for years. So if you're interested, there's a link in the description below, and you can use the code DAVIDG for a discount. So the state of the application we're starting from is just a fresh Laravel install. I've done Laravel new, and then I named my application URL Shortener Demo. And then I've linked it through Herd, or you might be using Valet, and I've also secured it. So locally I have HTTPS enabled for this test domain. I've also migrated the database. I'm using SQLite, but I only have the kind of default pages. So like, for example, users is empty. I haven't even registered yet. And we're going to work from this point using Blade, no JavaScript, and we're going to create a working URL shortener. Now, it's not going to be super complex, but it will work. First thing I'm going to do is just register. So I'm going to use test@example.com as my email, and use password because that's what our seeder is going to use, and we'll get into that in a minute. And as you can see, this is the default dashboard, and nothing really happens here because it's empty. It's just a starter boilerplate, but we're going to work with this. And I just want to mention that later on in this video, when I'm actually working on the Blade template, I have it here in my notes already done. It's really tough to go line by line when you're writing Tailwind and you're styling. So I will copy and paste it over, and then I'll explain how I made it work and why it is coded the way it is. And of course, you'll be able to explore the code yourself using the GitHub link in the description below. So the first thing you usually do when you're implementing a new feature is kind of determine if you need models. And if you need models, you probably need migrations, and you probably should be using factories for both tests and database seeding. We're going to do all of that. And I think it'll be a really good demo of the whole model system in Laravel. I'm going to increase this so it's easy to read on your screen. So I need a link model. Those are the actual shortened links stored in our database, so we know where to redirect to using the slug when someone enters our URL address. And I'm also going to create a sort of useless model called redirect. The reason I say useless is because we're not doing anything with it. We're just using those records in the database to count how many times that link has been redirected, so we have at least some level of tracking. In production, or in an app that you'd actually build, you would be tracking which browser they're using, what computer they're on, what part of the world they're from, this kind of thing. And that's when a specific redirects table or model is useful. In this case, it's not that useful, but I wanted to implement it this way just to show you how the relationships work and how to make the seeders work. So the first thing I'm going to do is let's worry about the link first. So PHP artisan make model, let me move this down a little bit, link. And we're also going to add the flags -mf. So -m gets you a auto-generated migration. -f, from what I remember, gets you an auto-generated factory. I think that's how it works. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So this link, if we open it in our code base, is going to have nothing in it. And first thing, before we even forget, we're going to do protected, guarded, and leave this empty. So all the columns in the table are actually fillable. And well, actually, we should probably generate the redirect stuff too, because we would need to write the relationships. So PHP artisan make model redirect with the same flags, because I also want a migration for redirect, and I also want a factory. So I'm going to hit enter here, and we're going to get the same result except for redirect this time. And we're going to copy this guarded thing into redirect because, like I said, this is kind of important and often forgotten. And we're going to start by doing or making the relationships. So to give you a bird's eye view, users can have multiple links, and links can have multiple redirects. And then the reverse also is true. Of course, they're not the same relationships in reverse, but it's just user has multiple links, and links can have multiple redirects. So with that in mind, we should actually start from the user model, which is prepackaged with Laravel. I'm going to scroll to the bottom, and I'm going to create a new function, and I'm going to call it links. And I'm going to return this has many. Whoops, has many link. And this will have to be imported. I have a helper for this, but it's app models link. And that is that's actually it for the user model. Next, we're going to go to the link model, and we're going to create the reverse of that. So we're going to create a user relationship. User, this belongs to user class. Whoops, what's going on here? Oh, and return. Of course, you have to return this. And then we're going to do the same thing we did for user, except on the link to redirect. So this redirects, return this has many redirect and class. Oh, I forgot. You don't actually have to, what did I do wrong here? Whoops, sorry. You don't actually have to import them. They're in the same directory, so it doesn't matter. So that's that. And then we're going to go to redirect and do the reverse of that. So this, we're going to return this belongs to link class, and we're going to call this link. So on the redirect class, we have a link relationship through a link ID on the redirects table, which you'll see in a second, that links to the link model. On the link model, you have a redirects has many that goes to the redirects table, and you have a belongs to that goes to user using a user ID on the links table. And then on user, you have a links has many that goes to the link model. Anyways, that's that for models. I think we're good here. The only thing that we're going to do next is, well, not the only thing, but migrations and factories. But now that we have the models, that's actually pretty easy. We'll go to migrations, create links table migration. And we want three things here. We need a user ID on there to actually make that user relationship work. And we also need a slug. So what the user types in behind our domain name to redirect, and then the target URL that we redirect to. So first thing is table, and we'll use foreign ID. And we will name this user ID and let Laravel Magic do its thing, working out the tables and stuff. It figures out the naming of all this stuff for you if you name it correctly. And then we need a string, and we need actually another string. And they are not nullable. There's no defaults. One's going to be called slug, and one is going to be target. That's that for this table. Let's move on to redirects table. Like I said, this table is kind of useless, but I think it'd be really cool to demonstrate how this works with relationships and stuff and counting relationships. So in the real world, you would have an actual use for this table. So it probably is good to demonstrate. I would do table foreign ID, and this would be link ID because this is linked to the link through link ID on the redirects table. This will make more sense in the UI, I think. And then the last thing is factories. We need to build factories so we can make a database seeder and actually have data in the database to show in our UI. One of the best things ever about Laravel is how easy Laravel makes it to build test data sets and also write test cases in a sort of automated way, just so you know you're not breaking a whole ton of stuff with your changes. Sometimes you'd be surprised how much little changes can break. So the first thing I'm going to do is work on the link factory. Before I hit enter, I want to show you that Laravel models by default have the has factory trait already included. That means that the factories will work. You just had to generate them using the PHP artisan make factory command, or as I did using -f when I was making the model. In here, we have Faker. So we're going to use Faker to create test data or dummy data. But the first thing I want to do is actually fill the user ID. So user ID, user, and because Laravel already has a user factory by default, you can just do this. It'll generate a user for you, but make sure to actually import app/model/user here. And then we have the slug, and Faker has a helpful method for dummy data here. And let's copy this, and they have the exact same thing for the target. It's just called URL. So this is done, and we're going to also do the redirect factory. And this one's simple. It would be link ID and then link factory. And that's it for redirect. It looks very useless, but I think it's good for demo purposes. With these factories, we can now go into the database seeder. We can leave this one user factory. The database seeder is the file that will run when you type in your console PHP artisan db:/seed. In here, you can define all the factories you want to run seeding for and all the data you want to create. Laravel already comes with this by default in the database seeder. All we have to do is assign it to a user variable. And then we can go and create. So we want to create, let's say we want to create 10 links, and for each link we want 3 redirects as the dummy data. We can do this, and the fact that we've defined our relationships already makes this really easy. So I'm going to do link, and I want to import that. Remember, app/model/link. I'm going to do factory. Let me actually make this bigger so it's like really obvious. Link factory, count, we want 10. And we want to make it, because it's a belongs to, we want to make it for the user we've created above. So there's a helper method called for, and it'll determine which model to actually assign. It's very cool. And because the link can have has many redirects, we can use the has helper here. And we could just add another seeder in here. So you want to import redirect. Mine happens automatically. And then we can do factory, count 3, and then create. So in theory, if we run the seeder now, we should have 10 links, and each link should have 3 redirects. If my math is right, that's 30 redirects in the database. And we should have 1 user. Now, I've already registered. I'm going to have to clear the database before running this, but that's what should end up there. And all thanks to this magic, which is really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and do PHP artisan db wipe. I'm going to do PHP artisan migrate. We can go check out the database, make sure there's no users. However, we do see that there are links and there's a redirects table. And now, really cool part, PHP artisan db seed. So ran without error. That's a good sign. So if I refresh this now, we should have 30 redirects, and we do. We should have 10 links, and we do. And we should have 1 user, and we do. Now, if I go back to the browser, I'm going to be logged out because obviously the database wiped, and yeah. But I can still log in because the seeder uses password as a default password, and that's why I kind of registered that way. So that's cool. Now, I think the next part, because we've got sort of the backbone, the model set up, what we can go on to do now is start working on the routes. So let me clean up a little bit here. And I'm going to, first of all, restructure this into a group because there will be more than one route that is going to be behind the auth and verified middleware here. I'm just going to use auth. That's enough for me for this demo purposes. So middleware. Let's do auth in an array in case you ever want to add more. And then do group, function, open that up. And inside we'll do route, get, And again, I'm just rewriting this in a way that then I can share the middleware. In theory, I could just use this one, but sometimes it's nice to separate them out a little bit because this could be different in your implementation. So I'm going to do /dashboard, and this will go to a controller that doesn't exist yet. So let's maybe create that first. So let's do PHP artisan link controller. PHP artisan. Oh, sorry. PHP artisan make controller. Wow. Make controller link controller. So that now exists, and we can import that. So in an array, we want to type in link controller class, and this route /dashboard will go to the index method. You'll see in this. I just wanted to actually explain first of all. Our link management, you'll be able to see the links paginated and create them on this page. There's going to be no other pages. So that's why I'm keeping the whole /dashboard thing, because it's going to live here. And I'm going to name it dashboard. That means that I can delete this. And in theory, which I've imported the app /http /controller/link controller here. In theory, if I go here and create an index route and dd dyn dump 1, if I refresh this now, it should show 1, and it does. So this response is coming from the link controller. And that means that if I just type in what existed before in the route file, return view dashboard, and refresh, we have the dashboard, like nothing's ever happened or nothing's changed. We're at the stage now, I think, where I can copy and paste my version of the dashboard.blade.php file over. It's really tough to code this kind of on video. It takes a really long time. So I'm going to copy this over. I have it in my notes here, and I will explain it as I go. So this is the copied version. Maybe I'll do this. There you go. So what I've done is I've maintained the existing dashboard H2, which you're seeing here. I've then gone into this kind of white div that they have here with a little bit of a shadow. And I've made it, instead of max width, I think is 7XL they had, it's 2XL. I want it to be more narrow. And I want it to be centered right in the middle of the screen. So I used MX Auto. And I've added some padding a little bit here and there just to make it more like nicer on mobile versus desktop or whatever. And what I've done is I've then looped over the links we're going to pass to this with the count, with the number of redirects that they have in the database, and a button to remove them. Now, for now, I'm going to actually comment this out because we're not going to be implementing this till the end. But that's what this loop is. And then here are the paginated links. So Laravel and Laravel Blade include built-in helpers to build paginated links, so it's nice and easy for you. And I'll show you how to implement that. It's going to be on this page. And at the bottom here, we have a form for creating new links. And I'm going to comment this out as well. Oh, I don't think I can. So let's maybe leave this out for the time being. Now, if I refresh the page, it's going to be broken because I'm not passing anything to it. As it's, you can see undefined variable links. So how do you fix this? Well, the second argument you could pass to view is an array of data. So we're going to pass links. We're going to pass, actually, I don't even need to import that. What we're going to do, in this case, we want to only query the links out that are owned, meaning owned by the current authenticated user, meaning the links with the same user ID of the current authenticated user. And there's a helper for this. So you can do auth user to get the user. Okay, and then we, on the user model, created the links relationship. So links, and we want to get them in the latest order, and just for the sake of demonstration here. And we want to paginate by 5. And what this means is that it's going to The structure of the data that's going to come back, it's going to give you 5 at a time, and I will show you what happens in the URL when you click next. It'll query out those 5, and then you hit next. It'll put a query in the query string. It'll put page 2 or page 3, whatever you click to, and it'll query out the next ones automatically. And under the hood, there's a whole bunch of stuff happening, but Laravel makes this very easy. And if I refresh the page, it's still going to be broken. Oh, well, for reasons different than I thought, let's remove this as well, just for now. Oh, I thought it would be broken. What is supposed to be happening is we should be able to see link redirects count. Okay, this does not exist in the data that we're sending to the front end right now. That's not being returned. And you can see that there's supposed to be an integer here, but there's nothing. It just says blank redirects. I'm actually going to expand this. And why is that? That is because if we look here, let me just at dd links first. Oops. Okay, so this is the first link object that's being sent to the browser, to Blade rather. And you can see that there is no redirects count. What we want to do is count how many entries per link there is in the redirects table and use that to determine how many times that link was clicked and actually redirected. Pretty easy to do, and that's kind of, I wanted to demo this, it's so cool. You can eager load the count onto your object here. So with count, this helper, and then if you enter the name of the relationship, in this case, if you go to the link model, you can see that the name of our relationship is redirects, and you pass that into with count. If I refresh here and open up the attributes, you can see redirects count is 3, which is correct because we generated 3 redirects per link. If I had my toolbar installed, I would show you that this is quite efficient query-wise. It's very clever. But now if we go back to our dashboard here and just remove the die and dump, you can see that it is actually, in fact, counting the 3 redirects. And if I delete one, let's see if I can delete a couple. They should change because right now they're all 3. So let's just delete these. So this one now has 0 because I deleted the top 3, which belonged to this first link that was generated. And this one only has 2 because I deleted 4 total. That's why the primary key here starts at 5. And now this one only has 2, so it's counting correctly. And now pay attention here to /dashboard. There's nothing after it. If I hit number 2, it'll add a query string variable to the URL $page equals 2, and it'll query the next 5 out of 10. And you can see that it's showing 6 out of 10 results. 6 to 10 of 10 results, sorry. So that's cool. What's next? Next would be actually creating one. And what we're going to do to create is we're going to add that form back that I took out. So I'm going to take this, copy it, and I believe it was right here. And the page will break because links.store is not defined. We haven't created that route yet. Let me set this back to 100%. We haven't created that route yet, and it's obviously going to break. So what we're going to do is go to web.php and copy this and create a post route. And we're going to call it /link/store because it's a post. And we're going to call the method, in the link controller store. And we're going to call this links. I believe create I had in there. Let me check. Links.store. Links.store. Inside the link controller, that means that there should be a store method. And in here, there will be a request passed in from the form. And you have to import illuminate/http/request. First thing we're going to do, actually, let's see what's happening in the dashboard.blade.php. It's a simple form. It's got target URL, a label, and an input. And that input is where you put the URL you want to redirect to. And then when you hit shorten URL, it's going to submit this form with the action pointing towards links.store with the method post. And of course, you have to include your CSRF token. It won't work otherwise. This is just a neat little helper in Blade that makes that very easy to do. You don't even have to think about it. So if we're only passing in a target and the name of the variable that we're going to be passing in is target, then all we have to do is validate target, which is very easy with Laravel. We do request validate target, and wow, what am I doing? Validate target. We want to make sure that this is required. And this should be a URL, I believe. Just checking my notes here. Actually, sorry, I just left it required. I'm not sure if there's a URL helper. In here, this is something that I did leave in my notes because I wouldn't remember it. We're going to take the URL, meaning the target. We're going to assign it to a URL variable, meaning that we're going to take the request target, filter it through a filter sanitize URL filter bar. This is a built-in PHP function, and it'll sanitize it, and yeah, it'll just make sure that it is a valid URL, and it'll assign it to the URL variable. And we want to, this is a little complex, we want a do while loop. So while. One of the issues is that we have to generate a slug. We're not allowing the entry of slug because I wanted to just keep the UI simple. So that means that we need to generate some sort of slug that does not collide, meaning does not end up being the same as one of these. You can't possibly have a shortened URL with two shortened URLs with the same slug, because how would you know which destination to redirect to? So we have to loop and auto-generate a slug until there are no collisions. And I'm sure that there's better ways to do this, but for the purpose of this video, we're not going to use any hashing methods or any kind of fancy MD5, whatever. We're going to just use a string random, set it all string to lower, and loop until we find one that doesn't exist. So what I've done in my notes here is string to lower, meaning anything that's passed in here is going to be converted to all lowercase. And we did string. String is a helper class in Laravel. You have to import illuminate/support/string, and we're going to do random 6. I think 6, a length of 6 is enough. And we're going to loop until there is a link. Oh, sorry, we're going to loop. Yeah, we're going to loop so long as there is a link with this slug already in existence, meaning we're going to generate a slug, and we're going to loop again if there already is a link with that slug. I hope this is making sense. Sorry, slug exists. So this is going to check. Again, not terribly efficient, but it'll work for the demo purposes. I have another video I think I did with Inertia or Livewire. There's going to be a different method of generating this there if you want to check it out, but it is really difficult to explain in a nice, concise video. And then we're going to create it. So we want to create a link that belongs to the current authenticated user. So we're going to use the links relationship to do that. So auth user links create. We're going to add a slug. Which is slug, because at this point it would have been generated in a way that's not colliding with anything else. And we also have to add the target, which in this case is the sanitized URL. And we are going to return redirect to the route dashboard. Perfect. In theory, this should work. Let's see. Okay, we can see that we have a create new shortened link section here. The button seems to have disappeared, and that is interesting. Let's see if we can figure out why that is. Turns out the button wasn't rendering because I didn't actually do npm I and npm run dev. So there you go. You want to make sure you run those before starting this. So we can technically enter a target URL here, and I'm just going to do my personal website and shorten URL. And we can see that it did generate a slug, and the target is to my website. If I click this, it's not going to work because we haven't implemented the route to actually redirect. This is where we are now. I think one more thing we should do is implement a remove button, and that's the other thing I deleted. So let's see. We removed that from here, I believe. So I'm going to copy that back in. And again, this is all going to be in the GitHub link. So this is another form. This is a very classic, typical way of doing this within Blade. To delete something, you want to make a request like you would submitting a form. To delete it, there's no other really safe way to do that. So what we've done here is created a form with the action pointing to links.destroy and then passing in the specific link we want to destroy. And we've added a button, so obviously included this CSRF token and added a button that's red that when clicked will trigger this form to submit. And this will obviously break because we have not implemented this route exactly. So what I will do is create another post, and I'm going to use post, not the delete method, just for simplicity. You could use the delete method, but post is fine. So we're going to do link/destroy, but in here we're going to include the link. And this is a Laravel's built-in route model binding at work. So I will show you. This will pass in an integer ID for the link. What will end up happening is we will specify that in the destroy method in the link controller that this should be a link passed in. Laravel will then be going back into through the link model into the links table, finding that ID and spitting out the model. So we will have the link model available to us in the method. And we're going to name this destroy, and this also will be destroy. So we can now go to link controller, go to the bottom, make a destroy method, assume that a link will be passed in, and we want to implement a little bit of a safety measure here because technically we're not using any specific middleware to guard against this, and there's no policy here. There's no checks to make sure that the user that is clicking or making the delete request actually owns the link that they're trying to delete. Just a quick check will be easy. So abort if link, let's do auth. Abort if not auth user is link user. I hope that works. Link user. Expected 2 arguments. Oh, and we need a code. So it would be an unauthorized code. So it'd be a 403. You're not allowed to do that if it were to abort. Cool. And the way I built this in my notes here is, well, first you have to do link redirects delete, because you don't want any orphaned records. There's other ways to deal with this, but you don't want any orphaned records. So you want to delete your redirects, and then you want to delete the link. And then you want to return redirect route dashboard, ideally with some message. Same thing here. ideally you want to add a message, but for now, let's focus on this. Now, there's going to be one problem here. You kind of want to bunch these together in case they fail. If something fails here, if your link fails to delete, you have now deleted all your redirects as well, and you can't get them back. So what you want to have happen is if the link delete fails, you don't want your redirects to be deleted. So you can wrap this in a DB transaction. So you want to import illuminate support facades /DB. And you want to wrap this in a transaction and pass in a function like so. You want to copy these in. And now that's exactly how it'll work if the, and you want to use, if link fails to delete, then the redirects will not be deleted either. It'll just be saved because it's in the same database transaction. It'll be rolled back. So that's fine. Let's see if the URL works, or the UI. It does. So now in theory we can click remove, and let's find that specific one in the database, links. So there's the one that I just created to my website, you can see there, and you can hit remove. It should delete, and it's gone. So now delete works. That's cool. And now the last thing is going to be actually creating the redirect route. This is like the easiest part, which is awesome. And we will go to web.php. And one of the things that I've run into before, because this is not my first time building this, I have other videos on this, but I've also put one in, I put a URL shortener, a pretty complex one, into production for someone else. And one of the things you don't really think about is the order of routes. If you put the route for capturing a slug and redirecting to the proper target too high up in your routes file, and someone were to take the slug profile, it will then prohibit you actually accessing your profile page. And this is also true for the auth.php file. So really you want this route here at the bottom. And you want a get route, and you want it to not have anything other than the passed in parameter. And here's the thing, route model binding works by default with ID. This right here, if I zoom in a little bit, this right here assumes you're looking for links. You're trying to search the link model for ID. Adding :ID here would have the same effect. In this case, we're looking for a link, but using the slug. And we want the route model binding to do this magic for us. So we are going to do link :slug, because if you remember, that's the name of this column in our links table. And something I really like doing, apart from using Laravel's built-in features as much as possible, is using a domain action setup, basically feeding requests into actions, which could be another video, using these invocable classes or controllers, which I will show you now. If your controller is very specific and only fulfills one specific role, will never have more methods, it should, in my opinion, be invocable. So you won't have to wrap it in an array and pass in a method name. We're going to create a controller called redirect controller. Okay, and it's going to be invocable, and there will be no specific method. It'll just have an invoke method on it. We're going to generate this same way we did a link controller. So this will be redirect controller. Oops. I guess I have to comment this out before generating, or else it freaks out. There we go. I'm going to import this. So we're importing illuminate /routing, app/http/controller/redirect controller. And we will go to the redirect controller and create an invoke method. And in here, because we're using that route model binding through the slug column, we can just expect the link to be passed into the method. And in here, I'm just going to check my notes. Pretty simple. Not only are we just going to redirect to the link, which is, I mean, that could be the simplest, that's the simplest thing you could do. We also have to create a redirect record just to keep track that it was redirected. Again, useless, but in the real world, you will be tracking data in there. So first thing I'm going to do is just do a link redirects and create. And this is going to be empty because there's no data to fill. The fact that we're using the link arrow redirects relationship will set the correct link ID on the redirects table record. And we're going to do a return redirect link target. Okay, so in theory, if I now go back to the web app and it works, fantastic. These will actually work. I don't even, that's not a real link. There's no way. Let's try some real links. Let's remove a bunch of these so that's nice on the screen. Okay, let's leave one. I'm going to create one that goes to my website again. And let's do one that goes to x.com since that's all the rage these days. X.com. So these slugs are auto-generated. If I click this, it'll open and go to my website. If I do a random one, it's going to 404. So let's go back. Let's take this and let's do some random string. It'll 404, even without the semicolon, which is probably invalid. 404. And if we add another one, let's say, I don't know, laravelnews.com. And we take this slug and copy it and go in here, it'll redirect us to laravelnews.com. Anyways, that's about it for this video. I hope it was helpful. I think the best way to learn this is just to watch the video and then follow along in the code and just build it yourself. I will leave a link in the description below to GitHub for you to explore. I'd appreciate a star on the repo if you don't mind. And as always, as everyone asks, please, if you found this helpful, give it a like and subscribe. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.